Good afternoon. Two hands to review. Both hands are pocket sevens. Both hands are in the cutoff. So hand number one starts at a 10 NL game. Full ring. We are 8-handed. I'm in the cutoff. So MP2 raises 2.5. His stats are 25-17. Pre-flop raise, or raise first in, is 0. This is basically the first time, but we only have 12 hands. So with this type of player, what we can try to do is to look to see if he's raised first in other positions, and deduce how wide he is. So the only raise first in is the cutoff. He hasn't done the button. That doesn't tell us a whole lot. So right now, all we can do is just kind of guess as to what he might be playing. Raise first in might be something like this. That's 13.4% for middle position. That's a tighter range. He could be slightly wider, maybe something like that at 16.1. This might be okay to leave it here. Now with sevens, we're going to be ahead of that. Not by much. I mean, you can see 50.6. Kind of right at the break-even point. So our decision now is to fold, which I don't really like. I think our hand is a little too strong for that. We can call or we can raise. I'm not sure if I like calling because we have this player who has called 2 bets 56% of the time. And this guy's called 31%. So if I call, I'm going to kind of expect both of these players to call behind. I think this could be a good spot with sevens to go ahead and raise here to 3-bet and apply pressure. So if we 3-bet, it's going to be much less likely that these guys call, and even if he calls here, we're going to be in position. If we pick up the pot, that's great. That tells us a little bit something about Villain's hand, that he's playing, he's raising first in with some hands that he's able to fold. I just called, and miraculously none of these players called. So we're going to keep this wider range, and we flop trips. And we have these spade flush on the board, possible straight. So you can see that on this range, he can hit it. He has some hands that hits, but mostly he's got cards up there. So let's see what he does. He bets 2/3 pot on this player. Again, with 12 hands, we don't have a whole lot of information on this player. So the question is, what is he doing this with? I think he could do it with any of his pairs. I think he's gonna bet. I also think he's probably doing it with his made hand and probably no made hands. This looks like a pretty weak board. Maybe not all no made hands. We can say he's doing it with his flush draws. So that gives him over pairs. He's got open and straight, probably his gut shots. Right, so his pocket tens, 10-jack, ace 10. He's got some equity there. The overcards, I'm not sure. Overcards puts all hands on there. Let's do the 2-card backdoor flush draw. So maybe the hearts, the overcards. Now he could very well be doing this with his entire range here, including the weak pairs. Because again, he raised, and he's just taking initiative in the hand, and a lot of people end up doing that. So we'll go with the 76.9%. Assume that he'll skip his c-bet if he doesn't have at least some draw or at least a pair. So against that range, we're going to be ahead. I think this is a great time to go ahead and raise, get money in, because I think if we raise and try to build up a pot, he's probably still going to call with his gut shot, still going to call with his flush draws, probably might still call with his ace high hands. And that's what we did. I raised like 2.5 times his bet, and he just calls. Now, what hands are going to shove? I do think straights are going to 4-bet here, and I do expect a set to raise, because I think a set's going to kind of try to gauge where we're at. Straight, definitely. Maybe let's scale the sets down to maybe 50%. Give him 50% likelihood that he would actually shove versus call. Two pair, probably just call. Maybe a little bit nervous about that straight that's out there. Same thing with overpair and top pair. Weak pair might just call once and then be done. But I think ace high is probably gonna be. I think ace high is probably gonna fold. Flush draw calls, open and straight draw calls. I think the gut shot's gonna call at least once to see what happens. So against that range, you can see that raise increased our equity in this hand. We see 8 of hearts, and I don't think that 8 of hearts really changes anything here. I think he's calling. I think if he had a good hand, he would be shoving us. So I think we're still going to be ahead, and we're going to still be ahead by a lot. And you can see that with this range, this actually improves our equity. He checks. I think he's doing that with his entire range. And question is, should I bet? Should I check behind? So if I bet, I think he's going to fold all of those hands. I think quads is probably going to call full house instead of raising. I mean, he's definitely going to play the hand. Quads call, full house calls, straight calls, 3 of a kind calls. I think overpair might call. I think it depends on how much I bet. I think if I'm gonna bet, I'm gonna probably have to go down to half pot. I think middle pair is just gonna fold. So the 7-6. I think the flush draw still calls. So the flops and the turn. And I think they open in a straight draw. So I think if I bet, he's going to call. And it hurts our equity a little bit. But I do think probably the higher EV is to go ahead and call. Or is to bet. You can see that he's calling with a large number of hands that we beat. So, when we think about all of the hands in his range. So he's got 62 hands. 97 hands. He calls 62, and the only hands that beat us is 8-7. So is that one combo? Maybe like 1.5 hands. I think we should bet here. I think we should bet half pot and encourage those calls. If he folds, he folds. We bet half pot. And I think that's the play. I checked, so we have his entire range here, and then the ace of clubs hits. Now it's interesting because when we check, it kind of suggests that maybe we didn't really hit our hand. Maybe we were doing it with maybe the 9, or a flush draw. So definitely now in this range, we should be betting, and we should be betting probably 2/3 pot, maybe a pot size bet. I think half pot, we're going to lose some value because I think we're going to get called by a few more hands that we beat. So let's think about it. If we bet half pot, I do think he's going to be calling top pair, 3 of a kind plus. So he's calling 30%. And the hands that we lose to is basically 5.5 combos. Well, less than 5 combos. Say 5 combos. 5 combos out of 27 is what beats us right now. And it's possible that if we bet a half pot bet, we might get like kings and queens to call. Maybe jacks, just as kind of like a bluff catch. But I think that's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to get that call. If we bet, let's say, 2/3 pot. I think with 2/3 pot, we are going to get maybe these like ace 9, ace 10, ace jack to fold. But we still get called. So, we're getting called less frequently, but we're still ahead. So I kind of think we should go, and this could be maybe 2/3 pot, maybe half pot. I'm sorry, 2/3 or full pot is going to get that to fold. 2/3, he might call with ace jack. Maybe he's still with all of the aces. but I think there's a good chance that he's going to call with that wider range, so we should size a little bit larger. So what did I do? I actually bet the pot. So I like the fact that I bet that large. I think it might represent that I'm trying to buy the pot with a missed straight or a missed flush, and he does call, and he calls. Oh no, did he show it? Hold on, let me check. So unfortunate, this is one of those times on it looks like ACR where they were actually covering up the mucked card, so he mucked, and I don't know what he has. So I think I did it right. I think he's probably calling with this ace high hand, um, maybe the three of a kind, but I think it's strongly ace high. Maybe ace king, ace queen, maybe the ace king of spades, ace queen of spades. He couldn't give up, or maybe it's like ace king, ace queen of hearts. So I'm gonna say we had this right, but we don't really know if we started with a wide enough range. All right, so that's hand number one. Let me clear it out and get hand number two. Hand number two is a 5 NL game, full ring. So it's folded around to me. I went ahead and open raised, which is fine. And the only player that calls is the big blind. So I have 90 hands on the big blind. He's playing 38-13. I think the relative stat here is cold call or call 2-bet. And he's called 57%. So he could have gotten some decent hands, or he could have gotten, or he's very wide and calls wide range. So he didn't 3-bet, and that's kind of important to know. His overall 3-bets is 5%. 3-bet by position, he's 3-bet 1 out of 7. I am in a steal position, which might make him a little bit more likely that he would 3-bet. So let's take out at least those hands, possibly ace jack and jet, jacks plus ace queen. Still might be a little too wide. Let's do that. All right, so sevens. You can see I'm 62%, much better because he has a lot more unpaired hands in his range. Flop comes down queen 10-8. 2 diamonds. He checks me, which I think he will likely do with most of his stats. However, I do have a donk flop, 1 out of 8. So I think maybe it's a little too early to tell if he's going to actually donk bet with his top pairs. So if he did, I would think it would be let's go to top pair. Those like queen 2, queen 3, queen 4, queen 5, queen 6, queen 7. So the queen with the weak kicker. I may possibly even queen 9. I think queen jack, king queen are just going to call or check call. Let me bet. So if he does have a propensity to dunk the flop, that's what he's doing. So I don't really think he has it. It's less likely he has top pair with a weak kicker. So he checks, gonna say 100% of his range, and I bet half pot. Now what is he gonna call with? What is he gonna raise with? I don't think I have a whole lot of hands. 90 hands, so it's gonna be difficult to determine if he's going to if he check raises a lot. So 5 opportunities he hasn't check raised at all. So we're gonna say he'll probably call it even with his premium hands, even with the straight if he had a 9 jack. So he'll call top pair plus, probably call pocket pair below. His middle pairs are all of those 10s. He'll probably call with any pair at least once. The flush draw, open ended straight draw, gut shot. That's 69.7%. You can see his fold flop c-bet when he is out of position is 50%. Fold when he's in position is 25%. And this seems like a player who doesn't really like to fold very much, especially if he has some sort of draw. So any pair pair plus, and I didn't have any specific notes on him at the time. So against that calling range, we're going to be behind. He has a lot of pairs, and a lot of those pairs beat us. He's got these draws that make up some percentage of his hand, but not a huge chunk of the hand. So he calls. Go with that. 9 of spades. Now that's going to connect with a lot of hands in his range. It's going to fill up like the king jack hand. It's going to the 7-6 hand is going to connect. Now we do have a 7. We do have a blocker. So he checks to me, and I think as before he's going to check 100%. And then the question is, what do we do? So if we bet, what hands are going to call? I think top pair plus, top pair, over pair, 2 pair, set, straights. I think his flush draws are still going to call. His open-ended straight draws are probably going to call. He has, what, king 6? Yeah, he's got king 6. I think that's less likely. And the gut shots, I think, are going to be less likely that he calls. I mean, it's possible. So it's one of these things. So if I bet and he calls, even with those gut shots, top pair plus with the gut shots, I'm at 16%. If he doesn't, I'm at 15%. Now the difference is what he continues with. So if he's continuing with those gut shot, he's continuing with 82%. He's folding 18%. If he doesn't, then he's folding. He's continuing with 62%, 62.7. So he's continuing with 37%. Or he's folding with 37% of hands. So I think it comes down to, would our bet be profitable? Would a bet generate enough folds to show some sort of auto profit here? And, you know, at the same time, if we bet, would he still call with like this middle pair and the weak pair? Well, I think those middle pair and weak pair are all going to be part of some of the draws that he might have. So we can see, if we go to middle pair, like 10-7, 10-6, 10-5, king 10, ace 10, it's possible that he would call with a pair plus gut shot. Let's do that. And say king 10, but not ace 10. 10-7. But let's see here, 10-7, but not the 10-6 or the 10-5. We'll do that. And then a weak pair. This is a lot more. So let's, how about we apply to all. And then we say king 9 and king 8. And then the 7s. So 8-7, 8-9. And we'll include the pocket 7s. So 8-7, 9-7. So we'll do those. A little bit more generous, so even with those hands, because he does seem to be a loose player, loose passive type player. So he's going to fold 26%. If I bet half pot, I need him to fold 25% of the time to show profit. I think that's kind of a break-even proposition. I think less than half pot, he's going to be folding too much. I think it's going to look too suspicious. He'll fold. I think he'll start calling even more if I go below half pot. If I go 2/3 pot, maybe if I go pot size bet, I think I might be able to get rid of these middle pairs, top pairs. So if I bet, I do have to bet larger. I can't do a half pot bet. The larger pot size, I think a pot size bet here would definitely generate a lot more folds. So if we go that route, I think that could be the way we do it. But I didn't. I actually just checked. So we've got his entire range going ahead. Let's get rid of that. And then a 6 of clubs hits. So now we have a hand, our opponent's hand, which is definitely composed of a lot of straights. And he bets into me. He bets half pot. I need 25% equity to call. And if we think about what kind of hands is he going to call with, so we have a straight. All right. Would he bet with top pair? I doubt it. Would he bet with two pair? I doubt it. A set, maybe. But I think this is, I mean, if he bets with two pair, yeah, we're getting, two pair plus, yeah, we're getting the odds to call. But I just don't. Versus a passive, this passive player, 38-13, when he's coming out to bet, he's got at least the straight here. I don't even think he has a set. I think set's just going to check call probably. So I think this should be an easy fold. I'm not even getting the odds to call. It's unfortunate that the turn brought the 9. I think that was the card that really hurt us. So I think we should have just folded. I didn't. I called. So that allows us to see what he has, and he shows Jack 4. So that's kind of interesting because I don't have Jack 4 offsuit. I mean, I took out all. Look at all of those Jack 4s. Took them all out. But I think it kind of works okay because at this point we did say he was going to be calling with his gut shots. And if he called with the Jack 4 off, he's calling with 10-4. He's basically calling with all of those, and it's possible that he's just calling with all of his suiteds. And just such a huge range. It doesn't make sense why he called with Jack 4, but you can see his gut shots are a huge proportion, and once that 9 of spades hit, it fills up, hits a lot of his gut shot hands, and he has a lot of them covered. So at this point, when we think about if I was going to bet, I probably have to go at least a 2/3 or pot size bet. He's calling flush draw plus, and I think that's only generating 40% fold. So a pot size bet needs to get what 33%. So if I do 25.6 divided by 25.6 plus 25.6, 50%. 50%. So I need 50% fold. I don't think we're getting 50% fold. If I go 2/3 pot, yeah, 2/3 needs like 40%. I don't think we're getting 2/3% fold. I'm not sure. Maybe 2/3 generates this and it's going to be break even. But with the wide range, checking the turn, I think is probably the best, and then folding to his lead. That should be the hand. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Look tomorrow for a few more hands.